Hello and welcome to Modeller's Monday Roundup, episode 14. Hello everyone, it's finally time after 3.5 months of the lockdown or quarantine procedures. They've now eased a little, so we're allowed back into our club rooms in a small number. So we're going to head down into the club rooms and we can actually start bringing you some of those layouts we mentioned a while back in a previous episode. So I hope you enjoy later on as they start featuring. So here we have the first of the layouts that we've not been able to work on during the restrictions. So this should be the one we finish reasonably quick succession from now. This is the little layout called Coal Hole. It's a little coal mine layout. So there's going to be a little fiddle yard through there, and the trains that come out can either go around the outside lower loop into the workman's hut station area, so that will bring train with workmen, or they can go take the higher road up with empties where they'll get loaded from. This will become a hopper that fills up the coal wagons and then they can take them away again, and the hopper gets loaded from the mine. So the mine shaft is here, so it'll come up and then a wagon will come across with coal into the hopper building to fill up the hopper. So yeah, it's a 009 layout, so for anyone who's not too sure what that means, it is 4mm scale modelling, or 00 scale as more people know it, but it's using a narrow gauge system to that scale. So currently we've got two locos. We've got this one down here, Daisy. So this one here, which currently is number 8, is going to be named Donald, and we have the nameplates made. So this is where I've just fitting them on. So there'll be Donald and Daisy, the two locos. There's a little site entrance to quarry area. So there's the quarry owner's car. This area here has been shaved down, ready for a cottage to be located. That was located on the land before the coal mine started taking over. So that's still there. So we'll feature that as a build. It's already underway, so we'll continue filming the build from where it's at, probably starting in a few weeks' time. And here we have one of the other layouts that's been mentioned back in the Meet the Modeller section with myself. This one's Paddington. It's a shrunken down version of the terminus in London of the Great Western Railway. So we're just modelling 6 platforms, long enough to hold a smaller train because it's designed to fit in a small car, and actually being built by a newcomer to the hobby under my watchful eye. So this is the 2 of the boards so far where they've got to. So we've obviously got the 6 platforms. And you see we've got it. It's going to be digital, so we've obviously laid it out there with the station, one of the station pilots coming to get the empty coaches off this train that's arrived while another one's waiting to leave, and some bits in what will be the parcels bay. So the backdrop will have all the relevant buildings. And then there will be 6 tracks that come out and go off onto another 2 boards, one of which will have a little loco stabling area. So that's going to be roughly about here where my hand is in midair. There is one of the boards, they're already built. So yeah, this is another one that will, now that we've got access to these rooms again, we'll start featuring hopefully quite regularly. So you'll be able to follow the rest of its construction, and we'll also link to a couple of videos we're aware of on YouTube. It's been featured in where it has already been at a couple of shows as a layout under construction piece to show people how to go about building model railways for beginners. So yeah, so watch this space for this layout and the previous one, Coal Hole, and a few others that are here that we'll unbury at a future date to show you.
Hello, welcome to my first contribution to one of these collab videos, and I want to introduce myself. My name's Colin and I'm interested in modelling 1930s in O gauge, particularly the Great Western and a bit of LMS thrown in with it. So it's quite fitting that today we're going to be taking a look at sound installation for Dapol's Great Western 4800 auto tank. Now this is quite a straightforward installation, it's nothing too difficult. But for the installation, what you will need and what I recommend is a helping hand, because we're going to need this to hold things as we solder to them. Scalpel, you'll need this for chopping wire and things like that. Blue and grey wire, these are for connecting to the stay alive capacitor, which we will take a look at in a moment. Blue positive, grey negative. It's very, very important. Always keep your positive and negative wires different colours. It will always help with, and try and keep that the same with everything you do, because it will help keep everything the same. It's easy to tell the difference should there be a problem, and when you're wiring things up, because if you wire an output crossed from say a positive to a negative output, you're going to get into problems and cause short circuits and all sorts of nasty things. So that's not what we need. We've got some solder here, just normal electrical solder. This isn't the stuff I normally use, but I've run out of it, but this will do perfectly fine for what we need today. And flux, of course, this is DCC Concepts liquid flux. Any flux will do really, as long as it's electrical flux. I prefer to use a liquid because you get a lot better flow, which helps get better solder connections and joints. So that is a recommended product. Either this or Gauge Master. I've used theirs as well. I bought this because they didn't have any in stock at the time. We've got this lovely stuff, which is called Capon tape, if I remember that rightly. I got this from WoTTMEs, and it's electrical tape, but it's also heat proof as well. So it's not going to components, if there's any heat between them or anything like that, it's not going to damage each other. And obviously electrical tape, it prevents shorts, and this is very, very important stuff. We're going to need that later down the line. So if we have a look at the kit we're going to be installing today, we have a Zemo MX644C 21-pin decoder. Ignore this capacitor, we'll be removing that. And this is from WoTTMEs, loaded with their Great Western 1400 sound file. We have the WoTTMEs, I think they call this a dual ice cube speaker, something like that. Dual speaker, it'll be a lot louder, a lot nicer sound output. 28 by 18 by 9mm, so that's 28 lengthways, 18 downside, and then 9mm deep. So we'll be using that. And of course the Stay Alive capacitor, again from WoTTMEs, with a life link. Now this life link acts as sort of a circuit breaker between the capacitor and the decoder to prevent any backfeed or anything damaging either the capacitor or your decoder. It's very important. You don't always need them. With a capacitor like this, you do. If you use a normal sort of, here we are. If we use a capacitor like this, you can use them. You don't necessarily need them. I'd probably get away with it all right without, but just in case, we've got one there. Rather safe than sorry. Okay, so here we have the model. It's a rather beautiful model. I won't get too into the detail. I could talk all day about it. But it's an absolutely stunning little model. We are going to be looking at this in a future video as well. There's a few detail inaccuracies on it that are incorrect for the 1930s period. At the moment, this looks more preserved than as built, so we'll be getting to that eventually, but we're focusing on the sound just for today. Now, to install the sound in this, it's really, really easy, and it's a really clever way that Dapol have done it. All we have to do is simply just pop the smokebox door off. There you are, comes off nice and easy. And we just slide, forgive me, I'm doing this one hand, there we are. We slide this out, and as you can see, it's already fitted with a normal DCC decoder. I've been using it with a normal decoder for a while, so it's time to get the sound in. We're not going to be needing these. This is space for you to put dual speakers that just touch a contact pad underneath. But we're going to be taking these off, as that's where our dual speaker is going to sit, and we can wire it to the contact pads on the other side, and they'll that will do nicely. Same with the stay alive capacitor, that will just be held underneath here, but we'll get to that and I will show you everything as we go along. Alright, so we're going to begin by installing the speaker first. I've already taken the liberty of preparing the wires, as you can, sorry, forgive the blurriness. Never mind, the camera doesn't want to focus, but I've already taken the liberty of preparing the wires and chopping them to length for where we're going to be soldering them onto these two pads. Now before we do any soldering, we're going to have to tin the wire tips and tin these little pads where we're going to be soldering, as it will, we'll get a better joint. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll get to soldering the speaker in place. Alright, there we go. That's the speaker installed quite comfortably on there. I've just, sorry, yeah, there we are. Soldered onto these two pads, and that's black tack, which is very useful. It's like blue tack, apart from in colour, and the fact it is a lot stronger. So it's very, very useful stuff to have when you're installing things like this. I did mean to mention that in the first part of the video, but there we go. Sorry, mentioned it now. And next we're going to be installing the stay alive capacitor, which is going to sit here, and we'll route the wires through a little slot. Just you can't quite see it because there's the speaker, sorry, but it'll just slot up under through there. So we're going to get to installing the capacitor now. Okay, so that's the capacitor installed and some Capon tape wrapped around it, and the wires are fed through underneath where we've got the life link, which I just held on with a bit of black tack while I was just soldering it. Which that's all on now, so all we've got left to do now is just plug the decoder in and solder the two wires onto this side of the life link, wrap it in some tape, and we'll be good to go. So let's get the decoder out and get on with that, I think. Well, there we go. We've got the decoder in, and the life link, the speakers, and the stay alive capacitor. So all we need to do now is just take our little setup and just bring it back to the engine, just slot it in there, push it in, oh, might take a slight bit of a wiggle, there we go, and get that, there we are, plugged in, push that capacitor in, there we go. So that's all installed. I think it's time we took this lovely engine to the layout and see what it sounds like. So I just wanted to quickly show you all the stay alive capacitor in action, and if you didn't know what they are and what they do and why it's a benefit. So stay alive capacitor does exactly what it says on the tin. A capacitor stores an electrical charge and it discharges that charge when the pickups on the wheels lose contact. So if it's running over a dirty track or a dead spot or anything like that, the capacitor will keep the motor turning. With the capacitor we've got in this, it's about 2 seconds give or take, but it will keep it going even with the sound on. So if I just switch the sound on for you, and we'll just get this lovely engine moving. Just let her take off a bit, and then there we go. I'll put her back on the track. And away she goes again. I see this model has a feature, so if I just turn the speed off and hold down the function 2 button, you'll notice she won't stop. hold down the button, and she comes to a stop. So what that feature is called real drive or something like that. So your brake is controlled on function 2, so you dab the brake a bit to slow the model down, or hold it down and it will stop altogether, which is, in all honesty, quite fantastic. So that just about covers it. Covers the sound installation for this model. It works perfectly, and it's a very reliable runner. As you can see, the Stay Alive works, the speaker is very nice, very good sound quality there, good volume. So I think personally it's quite fantastic. There's quite a lot of other sound features included in this. I'll do a short little video just after this one, so you can, little clip, so you can see some of the sound functions on the decoder, you know, alternate whistles and things like that. So I'll just film that, some alternate whistles or something, and then I just want to do a little piece as to why I chose O-Gauge and what I like about it. Right, so I've just been through the list and I've picked off a number of sound functions that I think are most interesting, really, to show you in the video. So if we just hit function 1, which turns on the main sounds. So the first one, we've got function 3 with the first whistle. Nice little short too. Function 4 is another whistle, slightly longer. Function 6 is the coal shovel, and as you can see just by the cab there, it also activates the flickering firebox light which this model is fitted with, which is quite fantastic, really. We'll just turn that off. We've got function 7, which is the blower. Function 9, which is a lovely guard's whistle, to be used in conjunction with, obviously, one of the whistles. Now we get to the other sound ones where I have to sort of do a bit of fancy button work. Function 14, which is wheel flange. From there, function 17, which is wheel slip. It'd be nice if the wheels actually slipped, but I think that would cause some damage to the motor. We've got function 18, which is another whistle. Good bit of two-tone whistle there with the brake whistle, which is the smaller deep tone whistle. Oh, sorry, just switched on the wheel slip again. Pardon me, wrong button. So we've got function 22, which is the auto coach bell, which is obviously to be used with the auto coach over there. And lastly, we have function 23, which is a fourth whistle. Quite a lovely one, in all honesty. So I hope you enjoyed the sound installation in this engine. I've certainly enjoyed doing it, and the results, as you've heard and seen, are fantastic. I just wanted to talk briefly a bit about why I chose to model O-Gauge, as I know O-Gauge is seen as the more senior scale, and tends to be something people do later in life, in all honesty. So why have I chosen to model O-Gauge? Well, I used to model double O-Gauge fine scale for many years, and I quite enjoyed it, but I felt somewhat limited by it. I couldn't get the level of detail that I wanted out of it that you can get in O-Gauge, nor the performance of locomotives. You can put stay alives in double O models, don't get me wrong, which improves reliability, but it doesn't improve motor quality. So O-Gauge for me just ticked all the right boxes. The details there, the running quality's there, and I just think it's just absolutely fantastic to have a model of a 4800 in such detail as this, and with running qualities to back it up, is just absolutely fantastic in my opinion. and I really enjoy it. It's much easier for me to see, it's much easier for me to handle, and all around I think it's just a better scale for me personally to model in. If anybody else is considering giving O-Gauge a go, I would definitely give it a go. There's a bit of a mythos that you need lots of money or lots of space. You don't really, not as long as you're clever with what you use your space. For example, a Dapol Sentinel won't take you back the Earth. I think they're about 150 quid. That's just for the DC model. They are fantastic, I've seen them. I'd own one myself if I didn't already have a kit built Y1 Sentinel. But it's fantastic. You know, you can have from little shunting layouts to branch layouts like mine or anything. It is really fantastic, and I intend to stick with O-Gauge through and through. Obviously 1930s LMS and mostly GWR, nice little branch sort of layout. So I hope you've enjoyed it. This won't be the last you see of 4871 here. The next time you see it, we'll be looking at improving some of the details, making a few alterations, which I won't go into at the moment for the sake of time. But I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed my first contribution to one of these collaboration videos, and I hope to do many more in the future. So thank you very much for your time and patience.
Well, we've finally made it to Kenley site itself, so we're going to spend the day looking around, do a social distance meet with other enthusiasts and things, because today is Sunday the 12th of July, so there's a bit of a social distance kind of picnic gathering thing to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the beginning of the Battle of Britain, which was 2 days ago on the 10th. So we'll show you around what we're going to be modelling, show you what remains of the real thing, and hopefully chat to a few people as well about the project. So here we are at the far end of the runway from the hangars, and then here's the end pen, which, as we'd been told before, as we'll look at, is built up onto a slope. It's been filled in. The next pen along still stands, and they are rebuilding its centre wall, centre division. This is where 2 more of the aircraft would have sat. There's another pen just over there, which we have also measured, and then there would have been another one further over, but that's now non-existent. So we're walking along the taxiway, getting to look at all the different pens. Behind me there is where the is where the runway that we're modelling would be. So you can still walk around the whole site. You can actually go out onto the runway, so we'll go over there in a bit. They close the gates to it when the gliders are in action. So I'll go take a little view from the runway itself as well. Quite fitting, a nice little prop plane flying overhead, giving the sound. Is some members of the 253 Squadron reenactment group who we're also here with today, walking across for our social distancing picnic, which we are doing in the blast pen just over there. So we'll join that in a bit once we've finished our little wander and measuring trip around the airfield first. And here we are on the actual runway that we'll be modelling at the front of the whole of the diorama. So this is it. This is where we'll have our Hurricanes going along, taking off, and then hopefully if we can figure out the system right, they'll also can come back and land again as well. And then behind us, all the way over there are the pens, but we'll obviously be moving them right next to the runway. Not sure if we can see them from here. Bit of a distance on the camera phone, but I'll film when I walk back the other way as well if it looks like I can get them. If not, you've seen them already. And in a bit when we go join the 253 Squadron's little social distancing picnic event. So yeah, so far it's been quite a very fruitful day, looking at the actual site, getting a feel for its scope, the slope of the ground, to help with the model build. We're obviously now going to go show our plans to initial plans to a few of the people working on the Kenley Revival group and stuff who look after the site, and obviously rebuilding the centre wall there and bits. So we'll go show them what we've got in mind and see what feedback they can give us. So we'll report back once we've got all that set up. So when we had the diorama plans up, we had some members of the public also try and come over to check it all out and stuff. So due to obviously trying to do it all with the social distance regs, keep everyone at distance and chat, so we didn't actually get around to really getting any great filming done at that point. So what I'll do when we revisit the project, hopefully next week, I'll lay out the plan that I showed and show it to you and discuss the changes that we are going to be making. There we now are, you can see sitting out on the Kenley Airfield in uniform, marking the 80th anniversary of the start of the Battle of Britain, which I said earlier was a couple of days ago, because today's now the 12th. There's a few members of the fledgling 253 reenactment group here with me, all doing this social distancing style, just having a picnic together and catch up. So I'm sure you'll see more of them in future videos as we follow the model build and things as well, and we'll also feature some of the Kenley Revival people who are here who've been giving me the information you've seen in the earlier episodes looking at the project. So look out for all this in an upcoming episode.
Hi everyone, welcome to the final episode of the SDKFZ 222 build. In this episode we're going to be adding the rust and the mud effects. So without further ado, let's crack on. To create the rust effect on the exhaust pipe, I used AK Interactive's dark rust streaking effect. Once the dark rust colour was dried, I then applied a light rust colour over the top. I used the same AK Interactive dark rust streaking effect to paint on the rust effect over the chipping. I used AK Interactive's odorless enamel thinners to then blend the edges of the rust wash. To create the mud effect, I used heavy mud turned earth by Ammo. This was applied using an old brush. This is a new product to me, so I'm just trying to apply it by just tapping the brush onto the model to create a muddy type texture. To create the splashes, I use turned earth splashes by Ammo. Here I applied AK Interactive's Engine Grime. And that's the model complete. So for some final thoughts on the model, well, as you can guess, with any Tamiya kit, this went together pretty well. It took around 2 weeks maybe to complete the whole model. I'm happy with how it came out. I experimented with some new products that I've never used before. So thank you for watching.